online. We know that we have an audience of more than 100 people registered online, so we have a large engagement from the community. My name is Tamsin Rose, and I will be the Master of Ceremonies for today, so you'll be seeing me a lot, helping to take you through the agenda. And a little bit later, I will introduce the agenda and tell you what's going to happen. But first, I wanted to let you know that first we have a live stream audience, and we're going to engage with you using the Slido tool. So we're going to show you on the screen the QR code and the slido.com, so make sure you open your tablets, your smartphones, and put that in, because we'll be using that to ask questions, to poll the audience, etc. So that's how we're going to run today. I'm absolutely delighted that in a moment I'm going to pass over into the opening session, and the person who's going to lead us through that is Joanna Drake. She's the Deputy Director for DG RTD, and most importantly for us today, she's the manager of the European Cancer Mission. But just to understand what the Cancer Mission is, we have a brief video to introduce it, so we'll watch that, and then Joanna will take the stage. So let's see the message from the European Cancer Mission.
More than ever, cancer is a major and growing societal challenge. Each year, 2.7 million people in the EU are diagnosed with cancer, while 1.3 million die from the disease. It is time to act. The EU is on a mission to enhance, by 2030, the lives of over 3 million people by developing a digital platform on health data for a better understanding of cancer, generating new evidence to help implement effective cancer prevention programs, optimizing diagnostics and treatments through national comprehensive cancer infrastructures, and improving the quality of life of cancer patients and survivors by collecting and analysing data on their needs. The EU mission on cancer is committing €378 million over the first 3 years to tackle this challenge. By working together, we can significantly reduce the devastating impact that cancer has on both individuals and society, whether you are a national or local representative, a researcher, healthcare provider, an investor, a patient, or a caring citizen. Join us and contribute by proposing and implementing activities, projects, or initiatives with and for citizens, now and for future generations.
Good morning, everyone. I hope my mic is working. Can you hear me? Yes? Yes. Good. Good. So thank you so much, Tamsin, for that wonderful introduction. I hear, first of all, warm welcome to all the participants, both here in the room and also following online. And I'm standing behind this podium, not only because it's more comfortable, but also because I have my little friend here. And since I don't have pockets today, I've been asked, to put it on the podium or underneath, and not to forget it. So this is why. We have a tough act to follow, it appears, because I've been hearing really great comments about the atmosphere yesterday, the type of discussions, the type of interactions, and also the ideas that were defined yesterday, which is huge help for us as policymakers to go forward and be guided by you. So it's a tough act to follow, therefore we'll rise up to the challenge, and since we are together in a co-creation mood, let's do it constructively and together, all joined up. So, apart from being a pleasure to be here and welcome you and also the distinguished guests, we are also creating the right conditions in the EU for cancer patients and survivors to be able to enjoy the quality of life during and after treatment is a goal of the EU mission on cancer, which we would particularly like to address. And your presence here today is actually a sign of the importance that the institutions and the organizations you are representing attach to this goal, like we are doing. Missions might be quite a novel concept in the Brussels bubble, definitely not in a global context, but in the Brussels institutional setup, it's novel. It's novel within the Horizon Europe context as well. Why? Because we wanted to give a message to the world that we are not only conscious of what the global challenges are, but we also want to approach it in a different way. We want to make sure that all the channels join up to give one big push together, whether it's funding, whether it is how programs are organized, whether it's the impact that we are seeking. And that we want the concrete solutions not only to be defined, but also to be understood and also to be related to by those who need them most. And the greatest challenges of the world have actually been addressed by these 5 missions. And one of them, I'm very proud that it is on cancer. It has set a very ambitious goal. It is that of improving the lives of more than 3 million people by 2030, which is now 7 years away. Through what? Through prevention, through cure, and for those affected by cancer, including their families, to live longer and better. And the conference today is actually a result of this joined up work that has already been going on for the last 3 to 4 years, even if the mission have been actually launched officially, maybe 1.5 and a bit. But actually the work towards that started already nearly 4 years ago, and it was a joint effort. It was a joint effort of many different partners, of stakeholders, of WHO, of our Cancer Mission board members, the EU CAIAS project leaders, patient organizations, several services across the Commission, Santé, we have the Director General of Santé here with us, very happy, Sandra, that you're here. DG Education and Culture, JRC, Joint Research Centre, these are just a few. And therefore, I give you thanks, my sincerest thanks, for this excellent cooperation, which goes beyond words and goes very much deep into actions. And the support is really continuous. Above all, special thanks to you, young cancer patients, survivors, parents, and caregivers, for your very active engagement during the preparatory workshops in January and also yesterday. I felt so much about these workshops, and it has been a pleasure, even if the subject, of course, is not something to be happy with, but I'm happy that people are getting together in this joint up effort to really give this big push, this big momentum together. And also, something which should not be discounted as obvious, your eagerness to share your experience and to openly share your stories, your experiences, your struggles and challenges. And as manager of the Cancer Mission, I am deeply honored to be able to join these discussions today. And I'll be here the whole day because I really want to get close to all of you and to know you one by one, if possible. So please look me out wherever you see me during the day. Just a few words about the structure of today's conference and program. We'll start with introductory remarks from high-level representatives of the institutions, the Commission, the Parliament, the Swedish Presidency of the European Council, as well as testimonials from cancer survivors and a first discussion with young survivors. There will be then 3 consecutive panels in which young cancer patients, survivors and caregivers will engage in lively discussions with the European Commission representatives, the Cancer Mission board members, with experts, project representatives, and they are focusing on 3 main areas. First of all, policy actions to address survivorship. I did say that we want to focus on survivorship as a new policy area. Secondly, inequalities for childhood and adolescent cancer survivors. This is a session that has been developed together with our WHO colleagues. And last but not least, research actions to address survivorship. All the 3 panels will be moderated by Mrs. Tamsin Rose, who you've already had the pleasure to meet, and of course we count on your very active participation. I have referred to the Cancer Mission board members. 3 board members are actually with us today: Amanda Drury, Eleni Tolma, and Anna Toledo. They will contribute to discussions throughout the day. what is the Cancer Mission Board? You might be wondering. Well, probably you know by now, but it is an advisory body made of 15 eminent health scientists and innovators with expertise in implementing national or regional healthcare policies, who advise the Cancer Mission on its strategic orientation and help with the implementation of its activities. But without further ado, let's get kicking with the list of speakers we have in this opening session. And the first speaker, I have very much the pleasure to introduce Commissioner Maria Gabriel, Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth. Commissioner Gabriel was unfortunately not able to be with us today in person, but as she's currently traveling because of other commitments. However, she wanted to share her thoughts and expectations from this conference through a video message. So, on with the video.
Dear friends, dear young people, dear participants, it is a privilege to address you in today's conference, which is a very special event. Today's gathering brings together young cancer survivors, their parents and caregivers from across the European Union and beyond. They exchange with you on how you coped with your life during and after cancer, and how we can help you is of the paramount importance. This event is also the first conference of the European Mission on Cancer. We have put in place this mission in 2021 with the main objective to save more than 3 million lives by 2030, and for those affected by cancer to live and better. Let me start with some statistics. Thanks to the progress in early detection and diagnosis, effective therapies and supportive care, cancer survival rates have hugely increased in Europe. The number of cancer survivors is now estimated at over 12 million in Europe, a figure that includes around 300,000 childhood cancer survivors. While we can rejoice in this situation, we should not ignore that survivors, their families and carers still experience significant challenges during and after treatment. Late effects are of particular concern for children and young cancer patients, as treatment itself can lead to devastating physical and emotional problems. That is where the European Mission on Cancer comes to support you. Allow me to align some concrete actions of this mission. First, we want to ensure that research and innovation provide new evidence to better understand the causes, biology, and patterns of childhood cancers, and develop novel, more effective treatments, while supporting better management of their side effects. This will complement policy actions under Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, which is the European's long-term strategy to support, coordinate and complement Member States' efforts on cancer prevention and control in Europe. Second, the work has now started for the launch of two major flagships of the mission: the Understanding Cancer Platform, juncan.eu, and the European Cancer Patients Digital Center. Together, these innovative infrastructures will speed up progress in our understanding and management of pediatric cancer. In addition, nearly 20 million euro have been planned under the Horizon Europe Work Programme 21-23. This money will be spent for supporting research projects aiming to develop quality of life measures for cancer patients and survivors, and more specifically, to improve quality of life for survivors of childhood cancer. You will hear more about all these initiatives throughout the day. Finally, we must not forget that behind the statistical numbers, there are real-life stories and concrete experiences of cancer patients, cancer survivors, family members, and caregivers. Therefore, the aim of the European Mission on Cancer is to develop solutions that fit your actual needs. This can only be achieved through engaging in an open and enriching dialogue. The direct feedback we have already collected from you represents a unique resource to define future actions and priorities, and I warmly thank you for your input. I would like to conclude now by stressing that the young people are the heart of Europe. Your voice needs to be heard. Therefore, I'm sure that our engagement will not stop with today's conference. I see today's event as the beginning of a long-term partnership. I wish you now a successful conference and look forward to learning about the outcomes of today's discussions. Thank you.
Gabrielle, and I can second that this is definitely only the start, and we really look forward to a long partnership, because this is what this subject deserves. This is what you deserve as cancer survivors and also those who are battling the disease. Next speaker, Sandra. Sandra Galina is here, Director General of DG Health and Food Security of the European Commission. The Cancer Mission, as I said, and the Europe Beating Cancer Plan are two sides of the same coin. And we want to do this, and we have been doing this, in practice, more than just a nice imagery that I have just described. The two plans were co-developed from the start, setting a common agenda, aligning objectives, including on improving the life of cancer patients, survivors and their families, but also, more importantly, building up a joint governance at EU level. Again, not a common thing, not even at national levels. And I think Sandra can tell us even more about this. And I think it's quite a feat that this actually has been happening for the last 2 years and more. And for this, I would also like to thank your collaborator, John Ryan, who's the Deputy Mission Manager, who's an excellent collaborator. So within the Commission as well, we have done that, and I tell you, we had to strive to do this as well. And through our common efforts, a joint inter-service group was set up with the Member States, a joint subgroup on cancer, of expert group on public health and stakeholders, cancer group on the health policy platform, etc. So I think, as I said, two sides of the same coin, in deed rather than just in words. And therefore, the integration has become now such that one cannot deliver without the other. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. And I want to take these last words about the fact that we are working together in such good harmony. And, you know, we don't want to be malevolent. In the Commission, we all work together well, but, you know, we work really exceptionally well with RTD. We have gone into this co-creation, and in a sense, our Europe Beating Cancer Plan and the Cancer Mission have been trying to be totally complementary. So, if you allow me, I would like to thank also for those who are online and cannot see us. I would like to thank a few people. First of all, I would like to thank Joanna. I would also like to thank Irene. I would like to thank, I would say, Barbara. And I cannot avoid thanking Annika and Gianpaolo, because, you know, in the mission part, it's the people we relate to, and we know them all too well. I would also like to thank my people. John, you mentioned, but there is also Matthias and Philippe, who have been doing quite a lot of work on this Beating Cancer Plan. I would like to thank all those who are online for bearing with me with a bit of a speech that tries to give you an idea of where we are doing things, and perhaps you can, in your suggestions, tell us what we need to do more, because this is a very specific workshop conference on the young cancer survivors. It's not any conference. This is a conference that deals with today, at least 500,000 people that have survived, and by 2030 we hope to have 750,000 surviving. And I think we need, in a sense, to be proud, because surviving means that, you know, other events did not take place, which is unfortunately the case most of the time for cancer. We have, I would say, looked at this particular area of the young cancer survivors, because once you have childhood cancer and you are a survivor, you have a unique set of health issues that follow you throughout your growth. I would like to say that there are late occurrence complications sometimes. And of course, it is important that we look at the long care and the long-term support for these particular survivors. But, I think we need to know better the needs of survivors. So this is why the events like these are very important, because, you can get through health structures what you get, but it is in these type of settings that we get more into the real discussion. So, Europe Beating Cancer Plan and Horizon Europe mission on cancer together try to be complementary and to have, I would say, an approach that tackles the issue from different sides. Now, they include measures on quality of care, they include measures, I would say, on the long life survival, quality of survival of the young cancer patients. Now, care and support are important, I won't deny that. We need specialist expertise, and sometimes, in some parts of Europe, not all do benefit from the same tools or from the same type of approach. So let me say this, in some cases there are low volumes, a low number of cases, so we must face the fact that in some respects we are facing a rare disease here. This is why we have a European reference network on pediatric cancers, which is extremely important because you have, ERNs, it's a fantastic idea. You have very highly specialized, I would say, centers that can share to a much broader arena their knowledge, their experience, and thus helping these, I would say, structures that do not have either the means or the ability to know directly. We have launched direct grants for ERNs. This is a very important detail for those who know the way we finance under EU for Health. ERNs are the beneficiaries of direct grants because we consider that, it is important to put the money on a structure that started as, I would say, a sort of voluntaristic idea, but needs to be professionalized. You cannot have anyone inputting the data. You need to be paying the person that inputs the data and so on and so forth. We hope this professionalization will give us something more. Now, we have a few missions that look at the high quality care. In the cancer plan, we will go after a cancer survivor's smart card, and we will also try to have a European cancer patient digital center. Now, this is within the European health data space part of work. It's still going to be financed as a part of our Europe Beating Cancer Plan. So, it's very interesting when you work with money to see what is it that prevails. We put it under one heading for as long as there is money, and then we try to see if there is money also elsewhere. So let me say to you, it's important that you realize that we are fully committed to have, I would say, the possibility to deposit the data, to have the patients also access their own data, because this is something that we're very keen on, broadly speaking, not just for cancer patients, but it's one of the features of the European health data space. And I think that it's important when you think of data storage to have standardized, interoperable, but also ethical storage of data. These are very sensitive data, and I will go into more economic angles, which sometimes people avoid on these data. We also want researchers and other institutions to access this data securely. So let me say to you, together with Director General Roberto Viola, we are fully committed to populate the digital space with something which is the European approach to data. We're not the US, we're not China, we're Europe. And therefore, Europe cares about the privacy of data, and the access to these data needs to happen with the full trust of the patients, with the full trust of those who also would like to contribute to research, but need to be contributing within the boundaries of what is possible. There is also a long chapter on digitalized care. We may be going there in another place, in another workshop. I think that today we are more into the idea of care is good, but it's not enough. We need to understand that patients need to be treated, but then, they need also to be accompanied. And here comes a whole set of issues that concern the mental health of cancer patients. So actions to address these challenges of mental health are very important to us in DG Sante, because we know that the survivors have also families, have also a desire to fulfill their lives, and therefore, once you are treated, well, that is only the beginning of the story. You need to be really looking after returning to work, which is an important thing. It's a right. We have launched a big study to try to spot the real challenges that young cancer survivors will have when they go into the market, because this is not to be forgotten. It's a first step. It's a first step. So as I say, you give us your ideas about further needs, but we think that coming back to work or having an equitable access to work is very important. There may be connected to this actions on reskilling, upskilling, but it's really the ethical principles that prevail. We also are going after fair access for cancer survivors to financial services. If you want to set up your own company, the first thing that your bank will actually ask about you is, what's your health like? Therefore, we have here an EU code of conduct that we would like to develop, where, of course, together with the advances of cancer treatment, we can have something that is fairer, that is less biased or less slanted. And these treatments, these better treatments, need to be reflected, in the way the health of an individual is assessed by financial institutions. We also want to update this big dreams we have, and we want to fulfill them with you, is to update the Consumer Credit Directive, because it's quite important that there is a good legal framework, so that only the necessary and proportionate information, I repeat, necessary and proportionate information, is given to applicants for financial services. I think we know what we mean here all together in this room. Now, this cannot be done by us, the Commission, or I would say institutions alone, or I would say even the good associations that accompany us. But this is truly a collective effort, because it's a societal paradigm shift, I would say. So the network of the youth cancer, I would say, survivors, it's very important for us, because you can, by joining together, create this sense of community that we cannot create artificially with a piece of money or with this. The community is for us precious. So I thank you for all that you will give us in terms of returns for your community, which you are trying to create. Really, believe me, you deliver for us what we cannot deliver with any tools. So please be very lucid about that. A final point I want to mention is that, as I was saying, we try with the Cancer Mission and with the Europe Beatings Cancer Plan to produce a paradigm shift in many ways, I would say, from the prevention to the care to the way that you are finding your space in societies as cancer survivors in general, but as young cancer survivors in particular. Now, there is an issue of equity that I want to quote. When we say that, change needs to be good for all citizens in Europe, I really mean all citizens. And this is the difficulty, because, member states are very different. We have, even within member states, different situations. So the way I see it is that there will be a lot of effort between us and the member states, real work, effort, toil, to try to coordinate, to try to bring this equity issue to the fore and to try to have everybody treated equally. We can, today we can, because, even digital can help us there, but there needs to be really collective action. And that is why I think this forum is particularly precious, because you bring one angle. There will be other fora for other angles, but you bring one angle which is a very long-lasting one. Young cancer survivors means that there is a whole life still ahead that needs to be fulfilled. So thank you very much. All the best. You have a good, great friend here, Tamsin, Without Tamsin, you don't have an event. So let me say, I'm waiting to have good results from this event. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you, Sandra, for pushing the bar even higher. I love that. It's all worth it. As Sandra said, there's a whole life to live after cancer for cancer survivors. And that is the way that I think Europe adds value to people's lives, even in cancer survivorship. So thank you, Sandra. We're dreaming with you, and we want to co-create with you. Yes. Let's push that boulder up that hill, like Sisyphus, but I hope it's not the Sisyphus story that happens, that it comes rolling back again. So I'm hoping it will stay up there. Next speaker, we've got the Swedish Minister for Healthcare, Acko Ankerberg Johansson, who will also be intervening through a video message.
Dear Commissioner, dear colleagues, friends, thank you for organizing this event on the important topic of young cancer survivors. The patient's perspective is and must always be at the center of care. It is only when the patient and the loved ones' needs are heard and met that we can truly say that the best possible care is offered. To be able to do so, we must ensure that patient voices are not only heard in the individual cases of caregiving, but that they are a key building stone in the foundation that we stand on as we continue our work on accelerating cancer care throughout the EU. I'm therefore honored to be invited to speak on this occasion and be a part of the important work of Mission Cancer. Mission Cancer is an important step that the Commission has taken to combat cancer, to identify concrete actions to be taken to overcome some of the greatest challenges within cancer care. The close relation between research, innovation and care is vital in fighting various cancers. This is the foundation for development of new prevention, diagnostics and treatments. And it is crucial that patients are involved and have a voice in this crucial development. Survivorship is not only about surviving cancer, it's also about having the right and possibility to enjoy life in the best possible way during and after treatment. This is an issue close to my heart as Minister for Healthcare. Last week, I had the honor, together with Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, Stella Kyriakides, to host a conference on cancer here in Stockholm. The focus was the implementation of Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, and different stakeholders had fruitful discussions about prevention, early detection, and the conditions for data-driven cancer care. As improving the quality of life for cancer patients and survivors is one of the 4 key action areas in Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, it was given for both the Swedish presidency and the Commission to include patient voices in the program. One of the many things highlighted by the patient representatives during the conference was the issue of the vulnerability of cancer patients due to inequalities in cancer care within and across member states. Ensuring that patients are being offered the best possible care is not something that individual patients should have to fight for, but something that should be promoted in the entire EU for everyone, for all. Sweden is therefore glad to be president in the Council of the European Union and to have the opportunity to further push the implementation of Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. Here I especially welcome the Commission's recent publication of the first country cancer profiles from OECD, a flagship initiative in Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. Through providing sound and reliable data on cancer prevention and care, the profiles constitute an important tool for identifying trends, disparities and inequalities between member states. As I mentioned earlier, the patient's perspective is key in ensuring high-quality cancer care. When it comes to young cancer patients and survivors, we still have a lot to learn. In Sweden, for example, there are ongoing initiatives to ensure that both young cancer patients and their loved ones play a natural role in the decision-making concerning the patient's care. One initiative taken to ensure this is the introduction of a digital care plan that visualizes the care plan for each individual patient. It allows for informed discussions to be held between patients and caregivers concerning how the care should be formed and adapted to meet each individual's needs. With this initiative, however, we are still far from done. There is and always will be further steps to take to ensure that patient really is the beating heart of cancer care. In order to ensure that cancer care across Europe is patient-centered and thereby of the highest quality, I believe that a continuous dialogue between different stakeholders, not least young cancer survivors within the EU member states, is needed. Now, let me highlight a few of the issues relating to high-quality cancer care that the Swedish presidency will focus on during this spring. Later this year, the Swedish presidency will host a conference on life science, addressing aspects of diagnostics and treatment of cancer. Related to that question of equity and equality in cancer care is the question of secure access to pharmaceuticals. We need to ensure that cancer patients get access to the right treatment, regardless of where they live. Here, we look forward to the publication of the Commission's pharmaceutical package in March and stand ready to start discussions with the Member States. I will also be inviting the Member States to an informal EPSCO meeting in May, where we will address the issues of preparedness, sustainable access to pharmaceuticals, as well as innovation. We are also taking the work forward in the negotiations between member states of the proposal for a European health data space. We look forward to see what opportunities the proposal can bring in regard to creating better conditions for a broader and more equal implementation of personalized healthcare or precision medicine. I wish you a successful event today with interesting discussions, and I am looking forward to continuing this important work together with all of you. Thank you.
Much to the Swedish presidency for the strong support to the cancer plan and also the cancer mission, including, as the minister mentioned, the recent event Equity, Excellence and Innovation, which was held in Stockholm on the 1st of February. Slight change to the program. We'll go immediately now to Dr. Sara Cerdas, who is the member of the European Parliament, the Socialist and Democratic Group from Portugal, vice chair of the MEPs Against Cancer Group. Dr. Cerdas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here. It's such an honor to speak on this event and to be here with you, with the different institutions. This is indeed a disease that we have taken huge steps here at the European Union. This is a disease with a heavy burden that affects not only patients, but also their families, their friends, but also society. And we still have that 30 to 50% of deaths by cancer could be avoidable. However, we still only know 50% of the risk factors for cancer. So there's a lot to be done, even though the EU has taken a huge and unprecedented step in addressing the cancer fight here in the Union during the current legislature that started in 2019. So I would like to speak to you a bit about the Becker report, which is the Beating Cancer report that we worked in the European Parliament that that falls under 4 pillars, which is cancer prevention in all European policies, early detection through inclusive screening and diagnosis, accessible and adequate treatment. Whether you are in a capital city or in a rural area, everybody should have access to quality of treatment for their diagnosis. And also another point that I would like to focus my intervention, which is strong support for cancer patients, survivors, and their caregivers. Because a cancer diagnosis is a very heavy burden to carry, and its treatment is not always straightforward at times, and on occasions, very hopefully, now more than ever, technology and medicine have already brought hope for the survivors. And this is the destiny that we strive here in the Union and that everyone deserves, regardless of where they come from and their socioeconomic status. And all of these situations should set a standard. We are 27 member states, 450 million citizens. And unfortunately, this is still only possible in very few countries. In my home country, in Portugal, this law was passed in November 2021, but it is still not a reality all across the Union, and this is what we need to strive for. If we want a fairer, equal, and inclusive Europe, we cannot take away the dreams and hopes of young people to get credit to invest in their education, to get credit to buy a house, or to invest in whatever they want to do, being setting up a company. And we cannot remain this indifferent. If we really want to make health insurance available to patients who had cancer in their younger years, at the same cost as any other citizens, we must not take the eyes out of this matter. This is was something that we defended in the Beating Cancer report in the European Parliament. This is something we're following on this legislature together with the different institutions and for you, because the right to be forgotten, it's not the right to forget about people. So thank you very much for having me here, and I wish you a very great event and looking forward to keep cooperating with you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarah Cerdas, and there will be another Member of Parliament speaking later, but I really would like to thank the Parliament, the European Parliament, for the strong support to the Cancer Mission and also the European Cancer Plan. And again, it's by joining forces that we can strengthen our efforts to beat cancer and also improve the lives, which is our promise in this mission and also the Cancer Plan. And now, very important moment, we have 2 speakers. And we've been talking about survivorship all the time, and these 2 young people are both survivors. They have very inspirational stories. They both managed to turn adversity into opportunity, and they keep on using their experiences to help others and to help the European agenda become a reality. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Aron Andersen. He's the Cancer Ambassador for WHO Europe. Mr. Andersen, the floor is yours.
Go ahead. All right. 10 years ago, I had a cup of coffee that changed my life. It was with my friend Johan. Johan, he's a crazy adventurer. He's been to the summit of Mount Everest. He skied the South Pole, the North Pole. He's even flown a rubber boat from Sweden down to Morocco in Africa. Now you might be thinking to yourself, like, how do you fly a rubber boat? Well, he took this kind of rib boat, put a wing on top and a propeller in the back, and he can fly this thing. And he tells me he's flying down through Europe. He's passing this little airport in Germany. They call him up on the radio saying, like, hello, hello, unidentified vehicle, who are you? And he's like, hello, hello, I'm a boat. So, well, there you have Johan, crazy guy. So we're having a cup of coffee, and out of nowhere he says, like, Aaron, what do you think about climbing Kebnekaise, the highest mountain of Sweden? And I'm like, Johan, have you seen this thing that I'm sitting in? And he's like, yeah, but you're a bit of a fake cripple, it'll be fine. I'm like, thank you for that. But actually, I am a bit of a fake cripple. You know, I can use my legs a bit. Seriously, no reaction to this? I mean, I thought somebody would... No, I thought somebody would be like, no, he's faking it. What the heck, right? Or as my American friends say, only in it for the parking, right? But I think about this project, and I think to myself, of course I can't climb a mountain. Like, I've never done anything similar before. Of course I can't do an adventure. It's not going to be possible. But Johan harasses me for 2 weeks straight, and eventually I say, okay, let's give it a try. 3 months later, we're at the foot of the mountain, looking up at this massive mountain. It's like, oof, this is going to be hard. It's a struggle. We fight our way up that summit, and after 3 days of struggles, 3 days of having a really hard time, 3 days of kind of crawling up, walking on crutches, we finally reached the summit. It was such an amazing feeling sitting up there, listening to all these amazing young cancer survivors that told their stories, that told about their learnings, like, what can we learn from cancer? How can we, live an amazing life after cancer? Because we're getting really great at treating cancer, but nowadays we need to kind of shift that focus. We need to shift the focus to how can we not only survive, how can we also thrive? And I'm so happy that this is happening. I'm so happy to be part of this. And thank you all for shifting the focus to this. Thank you all for making the life for cancer survivors great. Thank you.
I'm left a bit speechless. Thank you, Aaron, for shifting our focus and reminding us that it's about leading an amazing life and not just surviving. So, Sandra, we have to push the bar even higher. Thank you for that. Next speaker, another inspirational story. Her name is Ida Svelber. I'm not sure I pronounced your name right. She's a 3-time oncology patient from Slovenia, specialized in social gerontology, defending a master thesis on life after cancer, the needs of adults and elderly during the rehabilitation. Spot on. Ida, can't wait to hear your story. The floor is yours.
Hello all, and thank you for this opportunity. This is way out of my comfort zone, but I think cancer made me realize, as he said, that we can do much more than we can, so I'm speaking. It's okay. I was asked to shortly present my story, which is always a difficult task for me, because my cancer story is... Well, if it would be a book, it would be a trilogy, and really long and not at all boring. And I hope it's finished, but I'm not sure, So yeah, the first time I got diagnosed with cancer, I was around that big, with a tumor in the size of this giant orange. I think that time was especially hard for my parents, because I don't remember much. And thankfully, because of my defense mechanisms, I only remember, the good tea and nice nurses and things like that. And after that, I kind of forget about it. Then, after 9 years, cancer came back, or as they said, new cancer came, but the same one. I still don't understand. But yeah. It came when I was 13 years old. I was just a normal teenager, going to school, thinking about boys and grades and everything. And then, boom, the same diagnosis. That was much harder experience than the first time because, well, I was not like my peers, I was standing out, not in a good way, so it was hard. But then, I again forgot about it. I said, it's past, I'm okay, I'm healthy, everything is fine. Then after 10 years, which was 2 years ago, I lost my voice overnight. And after long diagnostics and really long story short, I got cancer again. And that time, it was in the middle of the COVID pandemic, so it was very strange and very lonely experience. I was reliving my biggest nightmare again. You know, I was that shocked because my cancer was, statistically speaking and research-wise speaking, the type of cancer that should not reoccur at all, and especially not after 5 years. And it happened to me after 10 years and after 10 years. So I always say that that was my biggest heartbreak because I just couldn't understand. And, you know, I was doing everything right, eating the right food, doing my exercises, having these healthy relationships, avoiding stress, not ever having a cigarette in my mouth. Everything was like perfect, except, you know, it was not. I already learned my lessons, and I just couldn't understand why I need it again and again and again. But I learned a lot being sick in 3 different, totally different life stages of my young adulthood and childhood. And it's still a wild ride because, as you all know, people usually think that when we get healthy again or when we're in remission, that this is the end, we go on with our lives. But that's actually not the case. I thought so too before, especially when I got sick the second time. As I said, I was like, okay, this is it, I'm done with it. But then, because it came the third time, it really hit me even stronger and harder. And I realized that I just can't run away from this diagnosis, that I couldn't just move on. And that I had to learn how to live with it, with this disease. And I realized that this might be my motivation for life on, to live like the best way possible every day, that every day, you know, is a chance for opening, I don't know, a good wine and go on some spontaneous road trips and climbing mountains also. I remember one of the participants on the conference said that we don't know how much time we have, so we're gonna make it count. And I think this is the one. You know, I read once that there are years that ask questions and years that answer, but with cancer we are left with so many questions to which we might have to find the answers ourselves throughout our lives. But when I think about it, we also get many answers, usually not the ones we were looking for, but the ones that come with time, with experience, with pain and suffering. Answers about meaning, about pain, suffering, death, really heavy existential questions. Although we didn't ask for it, we were given some of the deepest life lessons at very young age. This conference and these experiences is, I think, also one of those answers. Maybe we are here to really make a difference, to help make cancer journeys easier for today's and tomorrow patients. I am really beyond grateful for this conference, for being here and meeting you all. I was really touched by your stories, by all the deep talks after 10 minutes after we meet each other, and by your living example, how to live well regardless of what happened to us. As I said to my family back home, this conference is really good for my mental health. I still think that. You know, cancer journey is sometimes a very lonely experience, especially if you have some special kind of cancer or having cancer multiple times. So for me, it feels really good that I hear someone say, I understand you, I know what you've been through, and actually mean it, not just faking it. It's really refreshing for me. I think this conference is a chance for young cancer patients and survivors to be seen as we are, through an experience that shaped us but didn't define us. I think it's a chance to be heard, to be understood, and to help others with our own experiences. It gives me great hope for the future, seeing how the European Union is trying to address the needs of young cancer survivors. And I'm really thankful that the organizer recognized the importance of involving actual patients and also their caregivers in the wider perspective of the cancer mission. Thank you for all the right questions, and thank you for letting us redefine the right questions. After all, we are the ones that luckily made it out alive, still standing or sitting. We are aware of all the positive circumstances of our environments. We are at the same time aware of all the cracks in our country's health and social systems. We know what we got and was good, and we also know what we missed during and after our treatment. We are the ones that still struggle with all the challenges that came with the cancer experience, and we try to navigate and balance our not at all boring lives, despite our diagnosis and prognosis. We are the ones that try to live our lives to the fullest, no matter what have happened to us, again and again and again, because in the end, it's always worth it. Thank you.
Ida, you have really emboldened us even more with your determination and your, I would say, even stronger resilience every time that you were hit. But you have shown us also, what being amazing means. Being amazing, that you keep your focus on where you want to take yourself and wanting to help others to actually be themselves and believe again in themselves despite all odds. So thank you for that, and I'm really glad that you're part of this effort as well with us. You've accepted to be part of it. Last intervention will be a video message from Mr. Lucas Fullas via video. He's a member of the European Parliament, the EPP Cyprus, and he's the chair of the MEPs Against Cancer Group. Mr. Fullas.
Good evening to everyone. I'm pleased to be joining you today even with a video message. Childhood cancer affects thousands of children and their families each year. The European Parliament, through Beating Cancer Committee, has accomplished its mission, and we are very proud of delivering a concrete report. Europe's Beating Cancer plan is putting childhood cancer at the center with specific policy actions and research efforts, from prevention via treatment to survivorship. Childhood cancer is a complex and difficult disease to treat. It is important to have a European health data space to share health data across Europe. This aims to facilitate doctors and patients' communication in every single country in the European Union. EU health data space is impossible without the trust of the citizens. Our role is to raise awareness and inform people about the importance of sharing data for research purposes. Research saves lives. Early diagnosis can often increase the chances of successful cancer treatment. Children also need special attention, which requires a dedicated, well-trained team and a special environment. Childhood cancer requires specialized care and treatments that can be expensive and difficult to access. Unfortunately, many children with cancer do not have access to the care they need. We must do more to support children and families affected by childhood cancer. We must ensure that they have access to the best possible care and treatment and tackle inequalities across the European Union. Another important issue that we need to address is the right to be forgotten, to combat discrimination and stigma. It is unacceptable that still today those young survivors with a history of cancer face social and financial challenges and limited access to loans. With Europe's Beating Cancer plan, the approach to cancer is ambitious, from prevention to survivorship. The right to be forgotten is one such issue on which we are dedicated to bring positive change. At the same time, Cancer Survivor Smart Card aims to improve the quality of life and health status of cancer survivors. This digital tool will address the needs and support the cancer survivors through their life journey. Before concluding, I would like to share something important to me with you. I have the honor to be the initiator of the Little Heroes non-profit organization, which supports families and their children who travel abroad for cancer treatments. The last thing that these families should have on their minds is how to cover the expenses. At that point, I would like to thank all the volunteers and the people who support us all these years. The first step to any change is to raise awareness. Therefore, I would like to thank you for raising awareness on such an important issue. Together, we can make a difference in the fight against childhood cancer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fullers. And this brings us to the end of a lineup of speakers, inspirational, very much ambitious, but very, very courageous. So the scene is set. Let's keep up the work. We've got a whole day ahead of us. I will be available, as I said at the beginning, throughout the conference, and I look forward to engaging with you as participants and on a personal level. I'll pass the floor now back to Tamsin, who will provide the housekeeping information. Thank you, Tamsin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a really excellent opening session, and I can tell by the absolute silence in this room, nobody was moving a muscle, how powerful those messages were. And I hope for those of you watching at home, you could get that same sensation of the authenticity and the strength of that message. And we're going to continue that with this session, where we're going to have conversations with young cancer survivors who will tell us a little bit about their experience of this process. And as you've heard, it's been a series of conversations with the European Commission, bringing them together to understand them. But just to set the scene, I'm delighted to pass the floor to Irene Norstedt, who's the Director for People at DG RTD. Irene, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tamsin, and good morning, everybody. It's a true pleasure to be here, and I am indeed very honored to briefly introduce this first panel of today. And this panel will have young cancer survivors who has participated in the workshops that we have held in January and also yesterday. Citizens' engagement is a key to the success of the cancer mission. Mobilizing people around common goals and offering meaningful opportunities to contribute